Once more, very good morning to you all. I welcome you into the Industrial Pharmacy 2. So, dear student, in the Indian regulatory requirements, we are onto the CDSCO, State Licensing Authority, their organization responsibilities, and the regulatory requirements. So that we have to see, and the approval procedures for the new drugs. Now, while studying this, we had gone through the legal provisions, the different committees for the evaluations, the regulatory processes, and the data required or the data requirement for the new drugs and the data requirement for the phytopharmaceuticals. So the things already we had covered, and the point which has been left, that is the regulatory pathway, or how the application that is to be made. What are the different intermediaries? What are the different steps in order to get approval, or how the path that is to be followed in order to apply and to get approval for the conduct of the clinical trials of the new drugs as well as the investigational new drugs. So the basic process that will begins with the applying. So applying, that is referred with that of the process of making an application. The application that is to be made, the application that is to be done in order to get approval for the clinical trials. And if that is the case, say for example, if we want to import the drug, if we want to manufacture the drug, for that also we need to seek approval, and for which we need to make an application. So this application is for either new drugs or for the investigational new drugs, in order to either import or to manufacture or to sell or distribute the drug. So that is the application for the clinical trial. Now this application which is made, that is subjected to the process of preliminary examination. So preliminary examination, that is nothing but the process of scrutinizing the application. So the application that is going to be scrutinized, application that is going to be examined by the different committees. So the different committee which will scrutinize and examine and evaluate the application, these are the IND committees and the SEC committees. So IND committee is what? IND committee is nothing but the investigational new drug investigation committee. So if it is a new molecule, the application that is forwarded, the application that is sent toward the investigational new drug committee. And if it is the new drug, then in that case, the application that is made, that is forwarded to the SEC, that is the subject expert committees. Now these committees, IND and the SEC committee, they will scrutinize, they will evaluate the application, and based on their evaluation, they will make the recommendations. Now these recommendations, either in the form of granting the application for the process of conducting the clinical trial, or they will going to reject the application. The third possibility related with the application is to raise the query. Now the query that is going to be raised, the query that is going to be arise in case if when there is any kind of discrepancies in the application which has been observed and which has been found by the subject expert committee or the IND committee for the respective application. So based on the queries that is raised by the evaluation committees, the application that is sent back to the applicant. Now the applicant has his responsibility to rectify the query and to respond to that of the query and to resubmit the application. Once the application that is going to be resubmitted, again it is subjected to the process of scrutiny, evaluation, examination, and based on that they will give or they will make a decision. That decision is said to be either approval or rejection. So if it is rectified, if every query that is going to be fulfilled, so the evaluation committee they will give approval, and once the approval that is going to be obtained, the application that will be granted permission in order to either import or manufacture the new drug or the investigational new drug, and then the test license that is going to be given in order to conduct the clinical trial, that is the phase 1, phase 2, and the phase 3. So this is the way by which the regulatory pathway that will flows, the application that will moves. Next is the approval process, that is through the online portal for the grant of license for the new drugs. Now the total process of application that became online as far as the grant of approval or the approval of the clinical trial processes are concerned, and these are going to be carried out by a portal. That portal is said to be the uh, Suraksha, Gunvatta, and Manakta portal, isn't it? Right? So that is the Sugam portal. The short form is the Sugam. Su that will stand for Suraksha, GA that will stands GU that will stands for the Gunvatta, and MA that will for the Manakta. That is the Suraksha, Gunvatta, and Manakta. That is the safety, then quality, and the Manakta. That is nothing but this standard, Suraksha, Gunvatta, and the Manakta. Okay, fine. So what we need to do is we have to make an application. So the applicant that need to register first of all onto the Sugam portal. That is the very one-time process. Now, once the registration of the applicant is over, now which is this application? This application might be, say, individual, or might be a company who has to perform or who is involved in the process of getting approval for the process of clinical trial, right? So then they have to fill their personal details. They have to update the profile. So that is the user profile in which all information that is needed to be fed into the online portal. So the information like say the manufacturer's address, the repository, the drug, its name, the drug related details, the study related details, the data which already we saw, all this information need to be furnished, need to be submitted into the online portal. Then the application has to be selected, or the what is the type of application, what is the category of the application, whether it is for the new drug, whether it is for the investigational new drug, whether it is for the drug, whether it is for the diagnostic, whether it is for the vaccines, what whether it is for the veterinary, whether it is for the agricultural, what it is. So based on that, the type of application and the category that need to be selected properly. Then the undertaking for providing the correct information, the undertaking has to be given by the applicant, that whatever the information had been furnished, whatever the information had been given, that is true to the best of knowledge of the applicant. So that is what is said to be the applicant's undertaking for providing the correct information. Then applicant need to feed every detail, like say manufacturer's details. Then the new drug details need to be provided, and there is a checklist. Now that checklist will ensure that all the information that is provided, all the information that is fed, all the information that is uploaded, that checklist will going to be checked, and then this checklist document has to be uploaded. It has to be uploaded. Then the payment challan has to be made. Now the payment channel, that might be in the form of online mode. Surely it is in the form of online mode. Either it is through the Bank of Baroda or it is through the Maha e-Kosh. So whatever the way that is going to be used, the online payment has to be made, and that payment challan has to be uploaded into the online Sugam portal. Then the application that is to be finally submitted, that is nothing but the submission of application by the applicant. So that is the final state, that is the final step of submission of an application. Now, once the application that is going to be submitted by the applicant, the application that is received by the NO officer. NO officer is what? NO officer is nothing but the nodal officer. So the nodal officer that will go through the application, scrutinize the application, checks the application, ensure that all the required information had been furnished by the applicant. So then once the NO officer confirms that all the information has been uploaded by the applicant, he will forward the application to the reviewing officer. So the reviewing officer, that is nothing but the NO officer, right? Sorry, RO officer. NO officer is the nodal officer, RO officer is the reviewing officer. The application that will be forwarded by applicant goes to the NO officer. NO officer will forward the application to the RO officer. So RO officer that will reviews the application. Then after review, the application that is forwarded to the NO, that is again the nodal officer. The nodal officer, after review, it will forward it to the decision taking authority, that is the DA. Now the decision taking authority will do what? They will again scrutinize the application, they will again review the application, and if any kind of deficiency has been observed, then if any kind of documentary deficiencies has been found, then the decision taking authority will arise the query, and this query is sent directly to that of the applicant. So based on the query which is arise by the decision authority, the applicant need to furnish the information, need to upload the document as the case may be, and submit the application. Then the application that will goes to the decision taking authority, and based on the response of applicant to the query of decision authority, if the decision authority is satisfied, the decision authority will forward the application to the central licensing authority for the process of giving approval. Now, it is the central licensing authority which is the final authority in order to give grant of permission, in order to perform, in order to conduct the clinical trial. So the permission is granted, then the application permission is going to be generated, and the permission that is going to be digitally signed by the central licensing authority. The whole process that became online, the whole process are becoming digitally signed, right? There is no manual intervention. Then the permission that is going to be uploaded, and that permission is going to be received by the applicant in his portal as the permission has been granted in order to perform the clinical trial. So this is the whole process through which the application that will move through the online portal for the grant of license for the performing clinical trial in case of the new drugs. Okay. So basically, if you see that what the different things we saw up till now in this, so we saw the different rules under the legal provisions for regulation of the clinical trial with new drug with phytopharmaceuticals. Then the various rules related to the import or manufacture of new drug for the sale or for the distribution. The various committees engaged in the evaluation of applications by the CDSCO. The data requirement for submission of online application for the conduct of clinical trials in case of new drugs and the investigational new drugs, the timeline, automatic approval, and the validity of the clinical trials. Along with this, we had gone through the requirements of local clinical trials and the waivers in case. And last but not the least, we saw the flow of application through the online mode and the pathway that is going to be followed for getting the approval of the clinical trials. So these are the things that already we saw in the last few lectures. Now let us just test a small recap of the information that already we had covered in the form of some of the few questions. Like say, we need to tell that whether the statement that is true or false, right? Let's say, for example, the first case is for new drug application, the data from animal pharmacology that is necessary. So what is this sentence? Whether it is true or whether it is false, we need to recall our memory. So what is the answer to this? The answer to this is true, right? Correct. The sentence is true. That is the for new drug application, the data from the animal pharmacology that is necessary. Very correct. Next, the IND committee, that is the investigational new drug committee, that is chaired by whom? Dash dash dash. The answer to this is DG ICMR and Secretary, Department of Health Research. So the IND committee that is chaired by the DG ICMR and Secretary, Department of the Health Research. The third check is permission to conduct clinical trial of new drug already approved outside India is stated under which rule? You have to specify the rule. So the rule which will explains the permission to conduct the clinical trial of new drug already approved outside India is stated under which rule? The answer is Rule 24. It is stated in Rule 24. Next, minimum how many bioactive phytochemical compounds are required to be assessed in phytopharmaceutical drug? How many bioactive phytochemical compounds are required to be assessed in the phytopharmaceutical drug? What is the answer to this? The answer to this is yes, 4 bioactive phytochemical compounds. At least the 4 bioactive phytochemical compounds that are minimum requirement for the bioactive phytochemical compounds to be assessed in the phytopharmaceutical drugs studies. Okay, the next is within how much time should clinical trial be initiated after obtaining regulatory approval? Within how much time should clinical trial be initiated after obtaining regulatory approval? The answer is 2 years. Within 2 years, the process need to be started. Okay. So all these are the things that already we saw. Now let's move to the next, that is the what are the current regulatory rules as per the NDCT rule 2019 to import, manufacture of new drug, investigational new drug for clinical trial, bioavailability, bioequivalence, bioavailability studies, or the testing purposes. Then the manufacturing of the unapproved API for the development of new drug, investigational new drug for CTBA BE study, CT clinical trial, BA bioavailability, BE that is bioequivalence. Then the import of new drug, that is the IND for the CT, and what are the main conditions of permission granted by the CDSU. So these are the things that we will see. We will continue into the next lecture. So with this, we will going to stop today, and I request you all